to show you how to replace a data source, and we're going to focus on how to fix things that can go wrong. I've tried to add all the things that I've experienced so that you can not have that same painful experience. And what I'm going to do is show you just a basic dashboard here on the left. As I click on my top chart, the bottom chart, which is a histogram, is displayed. And then when I click off of it, it does hide the bottom chart. That is an action, and that is going to stop working because of the data source change, so I'll show you how to fix that. The other thing I want to point out is on the left here I have a sales worksheet and a histogram on this dashboard, but they're hidden because if you look in the bottom left, all you see is the dashboard. I like to unhide all of my charts, and I want to show you the sales worksheet also. So here, when I move my mouse over the marks, which are the bars, you'll notice that the tooltip actually has a chart inside of it, another worksheet inside of it. And I did that in the tooltip here. And what you do is, right here I have sheet name. I added it by simply saying insert. I browsed to sheets, I found my customer details sheet, and I added it. So that's where that came from. But you don't see it in the tabbed bottom area. You're not seeing that worksheet because it's hidden. So even though this is sales is a worksheet, I can right click on it and I can say unhide all sheets, and now my customer details sheet is visible. The same thing on my dashboard. I can right click on my dashboard at the bottom and say unhide all sheets, and now I do in fact see the 3 sheets that I have used in this workbook. When I do replace a data source, I like to unhide all of my worksheets because then I can see the errors easily. The fields are going to turn red when there's a problem. It's hard to miss a mistake. So I like to first of all go through all of them, unhide everything, and then I can just simply use my arrow key to move quickly through all the worksheets. That's especially important if you have like dozens of worksheets in your workbook that you're replacing. So here in the top left, you'll notice that I do have my worksheets or my data sources ready to go. So the blue check mark is the data source that I'm currently using for this worksheet. If I go to my histogram, it's also the sample superstore. In the bottom, if I flip to my sales worksheet, it's also the sample superstore. So that's my active data source right now. I just wanted to take a moment to show you a few things so you can watch how they change. Over in the top left, the data pane, I do have a folder for my calculated fields, and you can see I have just a couple calculated fields here at the top. I have a set called customer name top in set. That's actually going to be based on a parameter, so I'm going to go ahead and edit that so you can see it. It's using the top tab, and if I click on the top customers, you can see it's the top customers parameter that is selected. That's actually over here on my right side. I am displaying that category, parameter control, and it's set to go to 10, 15, or 20, so I can move that around and see the chart change. I'm doing that with this parameter down here in the bottom called top customers parameter, and I'm actually going to rename that field, which is going to in effect break the calculated or filter. I'm going to rename the customer name in the new data source, so that's going to actually break that filter that's based on the set. I do have a set down here that I'm also going to use called order date parameter, and I wanted to show that to you. So I'm just going to click on it and choose edit. And when it opens, it's a simple date parameter, but I'm loading the values when the workbook opens from the order date field in the bottom right corner. You can see that. And if you click on it, you see I just have 2 dates in here. This is a date field. And what's going to happen in the new data source is it comes in as a text field, and so in effect that breaks this parameter. And I'll show you how to tell that it's broken. With parameters, it's not as obvious, so a lot of times I'll just go through and I'll open my parameters after I make a data source change and make sure I don't have any red warning messages, and I'll show you that too. The other thing is on the customer details, I'm going to go to that worksheet, You'll notice that I put some fields over here called Store Order ID. That is a calculated field that I create over here, and I want to edit that and show it to you. So this particular one is creating a string, and I know that because in the data pane, the little icon to the left of the field name is equals ABC, which is a string. And I'm just concatenating the word store plus the order ID. And right now, the order ID field is a string. So if we look down here in the data pane, you can see it says ABC, which means string. In the new data source, it's going to be an integer or a number, and that's going to break that calculated field. So that's one of the things that's going to break, and I'm going to show you how we can fix that. I also have the customer name top inset that we talked about. I have the customer name that's split. I added that to the tooltip here, and as I hover over the marks on this one, you can see that the customer name is changing. At the top here, I have customer details through 1/3/2020, and that's actually based on a calculated field. And if I double click on the title, you can see it's using the field max order date. That's one that's going to break. So I'm going to come over to my calculated field area, and I'm going to show you that one. It's using the max function and the order date parameter field. So that was the one that I showed you that we're populating when we open the workbook. And because it's going to change from a date field to a string, it's going to break the title as well. If I go back to the sales chart, you'll notice that I'm also using order date on the column shelf. So that field is going to be broken, and it's going to turn red when I do this. And I think I showed you the action. Let me just pop over to the dashboard real quick and show you the action. Oops, sorry. So if I go to the dashboard actions pane, I only have one action here. And if I edit it, you can see it's very simple. It just says the sales chart on the dashboard 1. If I select something in that sales chart, I want you to display the histogram discount chart. If I don't select anything, I want you to exclude all values, which is in effect saying hide the histogram chart. But the thing that matters for us is at the bottom it says category. So I'm using the category field, which is going to be renamed in the new data source. So that in effect is going to break this action. So I'm going to go ahead and say okay here. I think we talked about, I do use category on the color. And that field category is going to be renamed, so that's also going to break. Customer name is going to change, so that's going to break. And then finally, the customer field is going to change to customer ID. It's going to be renamed. So one of the things that I do is over here on the data source tab in the bottom left, if I pick my data source, I can expand it and look at this area kind of in the middle here. This lists all your fields, and you can come in and you can notice the fields that you use somewhere on your worksheets. For instance, I said customer name is an ABC field, customer is actually the customer ID. It's a string ABC here, but on the new data source it's going to be an integer. So what I'll do is I'll notice the field names, the actual field names, and then I will notice what they are and the data types also in the new data source. Now as you look at this, the field name in Tableau right now, what I renamed the field to is shown under the field name column. On the right, it shows the remote field name. That would be the original data source field name. So like if you go in and you're actually renaming your fields and stuff, that's how you would read this particular table. So I'm going to go back to my sales. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to go to my sales. I wanted to make sure I had both data sources available. So in the top of the data pane, I have the blue check mark indicating I'm using Sales Superstore, and I want to change that. So I go up to Data, and I say Replace Data Source. On the Data menu, I choose Replace Data Source. And it comes in and it's pre-filled it with the existing data source name and the new data source name, and I'm just going to say OK. And as I do this, all the fields that are broken are going to turn red. So you can see I have lots of nasty red fields. That's just lovely. And then in the data pane, on the very bottom, the fields that are gone or renamed, if you will, all have a red exclamation. So it's warning me there's something wrong with all of these fields, you need to fix it. So the first thing I would like to do is I want to fix that category field. And it's on the color tile. I think I use it, if I'm not mistaken, that was used, yeah, it's on the color tile on the second chart also. And it's used in the tooltip. So the tooltip filter here is actually broken because the category field can't be found. So I'm going to go back to my sales, and I'm going to open the context menu for the old category field, and I'm going to come down to replace references, and I'm just going to browse to the new field name, which in this case happens to be CATGRY, and I'm going to say OK. And Tableau goes out, and on every worksheet and every kind of object, it fixes the category. So here on the sales worksheet, category is now fixed. If I were to go to the customer details tab, you can see that my tooltip is still broken, in part because I haven't fixed order name yet. So I'm going to go fix order date real quick. So on the sales field, on the column shelf, order date is also used there. And I had mentioned that I know that that's going to change to, it's now a string field, and that's a problem. So what I'm going to do is come down here to the original, I want to be on the order date field. I want to actually select the order date field and then do change data type from the context menu, and I want to pick date. And you'll notice now that the date field is okay on the column shelf. It changed back to blue. If I go to that other chart, the customer details, now that tooltip filter is okay because I fixed both the category and the date field. So that's how it kind of cascades, and it changes everywhere and fixes things for you. Now, as I look at my attribute here for store order ID, I know that was a calculated field. And if I come down here to, let's see, store order ID, you'll notice it has the red exclamation. And this is another way you can fix issues. So this is a calculated field. I know that because it has the little equal sign in front of the icon. And I'm just going to say edit. And at this point, you can see that Tableau actually renamed it to be order ID 1 because it couldn't figure it out. It was a different data type. And in order to fix this, all I have to do is drag the order ID onto this field, and it would fix it if order ID was in fact a string. And I don't think it's a string yet. So let me go make it a string real quick. So let's see. Yeah, you see up here, order ID has the pound sign by it. That's indicating it's still a number. I want it to be a string. So I open the context menu. I go down to change data type, and I'm going to change it to a string. Now it still hasn't fixed that field because the store order ID, that calculation just got messed up. It got that 1 in the middle of the name. So I'm going to go edit the store ID field again. And all I have to do is fix that name. And the moment I fix the name, it changes to orange, indicating that it's a valid field. And the calculation in the bottom left says the calculation is valid. So that's another way that you can fix things. In addition to just, of course, retyping the name, you could drag the field, the good field over and drop it into your calculation, and that would fix it too. Okay, so now I see my customer field here that's on the tooltip is also wrong, and I happen to know that that one got renamed, and it's now called customer ID. So I'm going to come down here to the customer field that has the red exclamation. I'm going to say replace references, and I'm going to choose customer ID. That's the new field name. And again, I have like a little cheat sheet on the side that has the old names and the new data types also. So that one is now fixed. I don't have an error there anymore. My filter is still broken. So my filter is based on the parameter that uses the customer name. So I need to go fix my customer name here. And again, that field happened to be renamed, so I need to replace references. And it's now called customer NM, and I just say OK. And that fixed two things. It fixed the customer name split, which was a calculated field, as well as the filter. So again, replace references is the gold standard. It'll fix things everywhere, which is great. I'm going to go back to my sales field, or sales worksheet, and you see I have no more red. If I scroll up and down in my data pane looking for red exclamations, the only one I have left is discount and discount bin. I did want to show you my dashboard. If I went to the dashboard action, I apologize, I meant to show you this. When you're editing an action and it was broken, it will actually have an error message down here in the bottom left that's like a triangle, a yellow triangle, and it'll say the filter field is invalid. So there is a little bit of a clue that there's an issue there. That's also true on your parameter. When you edit your parameter, it'll be like red text, and so you'll know that that one still needs to be fixed. But for now, I'm going to go to my histogram discount, and I'm going to fix the last problem. So my discount field is the issue here, and I happen to know it got renamed, so I'm just going to choose replace references. And I'm going to go over here, and it's now called discount allowed, and I'm going to say OK. And it fixed both the columns discount bin field as well as the row shelf discount allowed. That's a count. And so now in my data pane, there are no red exclamations, and if I go to each worksheet, none of the fields are red anymore. I could open up my parameter and my action and my set and that kind of thing, and they would all be fixed now too. So that's how you fix most of the problems you're going to run into. I have noticed that when you're using a data source on a Tableau server, a lot of times if it's named uppercase, the field, or lowercase, and it changes to vice versa, or to camel case or something like that, that's also considered a field rename. And so you have to pay attention to those too. You fix them the same way, but that's something else that can go wrong that you might want to look for. And I think that that's everything. I'll probably find more things that can go wrong, and then I'll update the video. But that's what I have found in life so far. So I hope it was helpful. Thanks. Bye.